We're on top of a mountain near Scranton, Pennsylvania, at a place which will remain unnamed for now because it's going to be big in Strange Familiars and in my writing and so forth. So going forward, Octavian and I up here for the Carbondale Fest nearby to this place that I've wanted to come for a year or two now. And boy, the temperature dropped about 10 or 15 degrees up on top of this mountain. It is cold.
That wind chill is...
Yeah, I was just complaining. We were down in Carbondale in town, and I was like, this is way too warm for November. I'll get up here. I'm not complaining about it now. Ooh.
Okay, just hold on. Look at that one.
Yeah.
Plane? I didn't see any flashing lights. And you can usually see them pretty far away.
Well, it's moving at about the same pace as that other one. I think it's a plane.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure, but I think it is. I think I'm seeing like... Now what about that light at the top of the trees over there?
Yeah.
Just went out.
Yeah.
Just went out.
Oh, it's back again.
Where is it? I don't see it.
You see it? It's really faint now.
Huh.
It did just go out. It's gone.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know.
Are we recording?
We are recording.
So for the listeners, I had an experience. Today's the 8th. On the 6th, I had an experience with my co-host Ian and our new friend Levi. We were at Fishing Creek, which is the place that me, Ian, and Tim had a series of strange events all in one night, including the sighting of a possible albatwit.
The Watcher episode.
Yeah. Well, the other night, me and Ian and Levi were out there, and we had some pretty interesting stuff happen. The most easily talked about one is we saw a unidentified flying object in the sky going about 4 times the speed of a plane, dark bronze in the shape of a walnut. And it was very clear, and it was being followed by a cluster of smaller bronze lights that were making some sort of like an undulating pattern. And it started at one end of this, at the left end of the sky, and went to the right, and then just vanished. And that's the strangest thing I've ever seen in the sky in my entire life. And so, right now, I'm very, very keen on seeing more of that.
Yeah, that's like after the fireball, I was looking up.
Yeah.
I mean, I still am. A lot more than I was. Boy, can't hear a thing. This wind.
Yeah, if you want, we can turn back. But I guess it doesn't really make a difference since we're going that way anyway.
Yeah.
So me and Tim just observed a light that was making some interesting patterns and then just disappeared. And we've been making note of planes, or possible planes. There's something weirdly desolate about this place.
Yeah, this feels so lonesome up here. So I'm just not familiar with this area. The vegetation. I would think that this mountaintop isn't high enough where there wouldn't be trees up here, like deciduous trees.
Yeah.
So I think this had been logged at some point. And that's why this is like kind of a scrub field we're walking through. There's a gravel forest road that runs through here. But it is, yeah, it's spooky.
Yeah, it is.
Something ran off right next to us. We're on the right road, right?
Yeah. Yeah. This takes us to that road we were on, and then we just turn right, and we should end up with the car relatively.
You know, it's like...
Oh, okay. I thought I heard like a wolf howling. It was like a high-pitched tone. Do you hear that? And now it stopped.
Oh, I hear it.
I'm assuming that's a natural, it sounds like machinery.
Distant siren, maybe?
Yeah.
I hear what you're talking about. After the last patron show where we talked about the unhuman.
Yes.
In the creek, someone on Discord said, do you think, and I'm paraphrasing, do you think that this could have been a regular human that either represented for you and I these natural forces, or that the other maybe was using this natural human for those purposes? To which I say, most likely.
Yeah, I would say that is a very extremely plausible explanation.
Most likely, this was a natural human that... So the other is absolutely not above using humans.
No.
In certain aspects of it.
And you can go back... I mean, that goes into mythology.
Yeah, absolutely. This woman could have embodied the fairy queen or whatever she, whatever she was supposed to be. Absolutely, could have been a totally normal human that was just embodying those traits for us. But we got such an uncanny feeling from her. I won't say out of place because she belonged to that place, right?
Yeah.
Like she literally belonged there. She was of that place at that time. Yeah, could have absolutely just been.
And I think in that moment, and not just for her, I think anyone who is consciously or unconsciously being used by the other or an unwilling cohort of the other is by definition veering into unhuman territory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, not wholly. And that's what we were reading, I think.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we were reading. So yeah, probably, but also maybe not a normal human. We've never seen her again. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, the most logical thing is, it's probably just a normal human, but for us, was embodying that thing to the point where we made note of it and it stuck with us in a big way. Mm-hmm. You know, if this was just a pretty girl in the creek, I don't think that would have. You know, it's just like, oh, like she's pretty. You know what I mean? And you go on with your day.
Right.
You know, so. And it's interesting ideas.
Yeah, it is.
All right. What do you want to do? You want to follow this road?
Yeah.
That way?
Yeah.
All right. Welcome to Strange Familiars. How are you tonight, Allison?
I'm doing well.
That first segment that we played before the intro here was Octavian and I on a mountaintop outside of Scranton. We were up there for the Carbondale Festival.
How was it?
Had a great time. Wonderful festival. I hope they invite me back.
Was this the inaugural festival?
This is the first one, yeah, but I think they're going to make it a yearly thing. And
it seemed, from what you told me, it was well attended.
Well attended, and for a first-year event, very well organized. Very well organized. So I'm really hoping they invite me back. I had a great time. So we got a variety of things on tonight's show, some of it from Carbondale and some not. Before we get to the next segment, I want to thank our patrons. Thank you, patrons. Thank you for everything you do. If you like what we do on Strange Familiars and you'd like to help us make Strange Familiars and get extra content besides, you can become a patron at Patreon. It's patreon.com/strangefamiliars. All of our patrons get bonus content. We do an exclusive episode, at least one, sometimes more than one, every month for our patrons. Sometimes we do more. For more, go to patreon.com/strangefamiliars. There's also an option on Apple Podcasts. It's called Patron of the Strange there. Apple Podcast subscribers get the commercial shows weekly and the bonus episodes monthly as well.
Also, before we get to the stuff, I just want to mention Kaya.life. As we're heading to episode 500, want to support the nonprofit there at Pine Ridge Reservation. It's KIYA.life, Kaya.life. If you can help them out, please do. And speaking of episode 500, I realized something.
It's coming too fast.
Yeah. The numbering's going to be wonky. This is 498. Next week will be 499. Mm-hmm. I'm taking off Thanksgiving week. Mm-hmm. However, we need to drop a patron show for this month, too.
That would push it up to being before Thanksgiving. So we're not going to do that, right?
We're not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to number this month's patron episode 501. But I don't want everybody to think I did a Wes Germer.
What's that?
Wes, his episode 1000. Mm-hmm. I don't think he ever dropped it. I think he went from 99 to 1001.
Oh, okay.
And just never did an episode 1000, which is hilarious.
It's like the 13th floor that doesn't exist, even though everybody knows the 13th floor is actually the 14th floor.
Now, it's been a minute. I've been very busy since Indiana, and basically all summer I've been really busy. So maybe he went back and did an episode 1000, but at the time he didn't do an episode 1000.
That's funny.
Yeah. Love Wes, love Sasquatch Chronicles. But no, that's not my plan. So there will be an episode 500.
But however we have to skew it, it will be after Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So it should be the first episode of December, I think. All right, this next segment, I'm going to be talking to a witness I met at Carbondale who has a story of a UFO he and his family saw together.
That is not the famous Carbondale.
Not the famous one. No.
Need to give my full name or nothing?
Not at all.
Okay.
You can give a fake name if you want. Where did this happen?
This happened in the Hudson section of Plains, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I was just back from being overseas. I served a year and a day for leap year in 04. So it was either Labor Day of 05 or 06. I'm not sure which one. It was myself, my twin brother, my older brother, my sister, her husband, her 2 kids, and my mother were all present. We'd gone over for a cookout. It was, I think, 2 o'clock. My mother usually starts the meal, so it was probably around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Bright daylight, good weather. My older brother had just gotten a new BB gun and showed it to me, and I said, let me see it. I'll see if I can shoot some birds. I went and sat in the back deck with the BB gun looking for birds, and I noticed a craft up to it was about 10 o'clock from where I was sitting on the back deck. And I just sat there and I watched it. It was a flat donut shape. It was, I don't know how to explain how it was rotating, so your listeners will understand. If it was a clock laying flat, it would have been going counterclockwise.
Okay.
If that makes sense. And it was just slowly moving across the sky. It wasn't varying altitude. It wasn't varying right and left.
How did you know it was turning? Did it have lights or something?
You could no lights at all. It was a silverish color, but you could see it with the naked eye. It was It wasn't far. It was relatively low, within 300 to 500 feet off the ground. It was really, really low. As I'm watching it, my sister came out and asked what I was doing, and I said, I'm watching this UFO. She said, no, you're not. And I pointed. She looked up, ran in the house, grabbed everybody else. So all 9 or 10 of us, whatever it was, come out and we're looking at it. It's not visibly speeding up or decelerating. It's not, again, like I said, varying altitude, varying traverse, nothing, just drifting slowly across the sky. Now, for your younger listeners, you need to understand this is before smartphones. It's all flip phones. The cameras on them are garbage. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't have made a difference to take a picture because you would have got nothing.
So the thing about that is, not to interrupt you, but...
No, please.
Whenever I've seen anything, I told you about the fireball just a couple minutes ago. I didn't think about getting my camera. I wanted to observe that and experience that moment. Mm-hmm. It didn't even occur to me to pull out my phone.
That's what people don't understand is you're in the moment.
It's amazing. It's an amazing thing you're looking at.
Yeah. I think you used the word life-changing earlier when we were talking. Yeah. Absolutely. Because it's something you've heard about. All of a sudden you're experiencing it and you're riveted because you don't want to miss a second.
Exactly.
And this is pre-social media. This is I got to put my face over everything. I got to record everything I do. And the cameras weren't anything on the phones at that point. So didn't even think about it. We did ask my mother about her camera. She said, the batteries are dead. I'm charging them. It won't do no good.
Right.
What are the chances? You hear that all the time where
Yeah.
you're in a situation and what you need isn't available. Right. So getting back, we were watching this thing just drift across the sky. The path it was on, It was headed from locally Wilkes-Barre towards the small airport in the city of Avoca. It was on a basic direction towards that little airport. And we watched it for about 5 minutes. Obviously, we didn't time it. We felt it was about 5 minutes. It took forever, a lot of talking, a lot of pointing, discussing it. And then about 10 minutes later, a jet came in, apparently to make a landing at Avoca. And we'd seen it, basically the same flight path. It was gone in less than a minute. So whatever we'd seen was taking its time in the sky. I don't want to say drifting because it was under control. It wasn't varying altitude or pitch or nothing, but it was leisurely crossing the sky.
Relatively smooth?
Very. No alteration, gentle, constant turning of the craft, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, with whatever it was, yeah.
Absolutely.
If you had to make a guess, how big was it, like in comparison to like an airplane?
I'm terrible at sizes.
I know, it's so hard in the sky.
It is. Exactly, no frame of reference or nothing. I really don't know if I can answer that, but I don't feel it could have been more than 100 feet or something. It felt small, if that makes sense. It felt little.
I ask people to do this, and I can't do it myself.
I can't do it, no.
I'm terrible. So don't feel bad about that.
Oh, no.
Yeah, interesting. So, did this impact your whole family in the same way? Like, it was...
What we did after watching it, we all said, don't talk about it. We ended up finding the UFO Reporting Center. And we all took turns on the computer going down and making our statement on it. So there should be about 5 or 6 of them for Labor Day 2005, 2006, Plains, Pennsylvania, reporting this in our own words before we discussed it so we wouldn't skew each other's observations.
Right. No, that's a great thing to do.
Actually pretty smart. I think my brother mentioned that.
That's really interesting. Very good thing to do. That's great. So, any weird things since?
I actually go in the woods. We were discussing Bigfoot earlier. I do go in the woods looking for Bigfoot, and we've heard... Weirdest thing I had the first night I went out, you did mention things seemed to group together, and that made me think. First night we went out, we were in the woods, me and 2 of my buddies that do this, and I had the parabolic mic, and I'm listening, and there's a little copse of trees we walked up to, and I'm micing it, and I heard 3 whistles and then a tongue cluck. Now the whistles could have been anything, but nothing clucks its tongue like that.
Yeah.
Chickens cluck, but not like a human tongue.
Right.
And it startled me, and my eyes got wide. I said, I can't believe I just heard that. But there was 3 of us together. Later on in the night, we spent all night out. Same copse of trees. I went to go use the restroom. I went over and used the restroom. I heard 2 distinct whistles this time. Okay. So I don't know if they were counting us in groups or what. Or maybe it was nothing, but I really think it was something.
Now, did it sound like... I can't whistle.
I can't whistle either.
Did it sound like a human kind of whistle, though?
It did.
Yeah.
Like if you're trying to get somebody's attention, like, whoop, whoop, whoop. I can't whistle, so I can't demonstrate, but if you're trying to attract somebody's
attention... My buddy
attention,
can do it. The one we heard in Indiana was like...
Yes.
Just like that.
Yep.
The weird thing is, the more people we talk to in Indiana, it's like, I heard this whistle. Mm-hmm. And they'll do the same whistle, and it's like, that's the one we heard.
Whistle, same duration, same pitch, everything.
Interesting.
Yes, it is
really
very
interesting. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your stories.
I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right, here in this next segment, Octavian and I visit the UFO pond at Carbondale.
Do you go fishing?
No, I don't think there's any fish in there. I did notice something that I think is very important that I don't think anyone else has noticed, though.
What's that?
Listen to the segment. You'll find out. So we are in Carbondale, Pennsylvania, and during the event yesterday, I did not get a chance to leave my table, so we didn't get to see the UFO pond, or rather the pond that UFO fell or descended into, but we're going to see it now, Octavian and I, because we're all the way here. How could we not at least see the place?
Yeah, this is sort of an industrial pond of some sort. Like,
Yeah.
I guess they said did they wash coal or something
Something like that.
here? So, did you notice anything that they didn't mention on the way in here? I noticed something.
What?
There's a cemetery right there.
Yeah.
Like a big cemetery
Yeah.
right beside this pond. Not mentioned in any of the articles because, I mean, to
Your everyday.
to your average, like, UFOs or spaceships person, it doesn't matter that there's a graveyard right there.
Yeah.
But there's a big graveyard right beside this pond. I mean, within sight of it. It's not, directly beside it, but we can see it from here, from the pond. Completely worth noting.
Yeah, absolutely.
UFOs are ghosts. Gonna walk around to that other side?
Yeah.
There's a huge graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
That is so worth noting if you're a paranormalist. Oh, it's way closer than I thought, too. The corner of the graveyard is...
Bordering the property.
Yeah, the corner of the graveyard is very close to the pond. Very, very close to the pond. I'm looking for UFO wreckage. I will bring back any. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be the diver that goes in there.
No.
I don't know how deep. I have no clue how deep it is.
It doesn't look that
It
deep.
doesn't look that deep. Certainly on the edges, it's not deep.
Pretty
Well, look,
steady.
you can see that rock like, in the middle, right there.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing the deeper part is over here.
Mm-hmm.
Probably. But it is murky. Like, it would be hard to see.
Yeah.
I assume it was... I mean, from what they said, it's pretty much the same as it was back then.
I can't imagine there's been any attention to this park before 1974 or after.
Yeah, interesting. Is that a tapping or a bird?
It sounds like both.
Yeah.
There is like a surreal element to this place.
Yeah. You know what it reminds me? It reminds me of the mountain we were on the other night, in a way.
Yeah, there's an eeriness to this whole region.
So I'm guessing this is all that slag stuff that we're walking on. The stuff drug out of a coal mine that they don't want. Yeah, I'm sure that's what all these big hills are. Oh, look, there's old structure here under this. UFO landing site is second one I've been to. Did I ever take the one in York County?
No.
I'll have to take you there.
Okay.
I'm going to put landing site in quotes.
Yeah.
I truly think, like, honestly, I think it was a ghost that came out of the sky and went in that water.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That feels a lot more on brand.
And using ghost in the broadest term possible, but I do not think a craft came into that water.
No. And whatever the government dredged up and put in that trailer.
Yeah,
Like a lot of smoke and mirrors.
that feels like the flesh and blood Bigfoot. Have you ever heard the stories about Bigfoot on...
Mount St. Helens?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And there were teams of people, and they were taking burnt Bigfoot out of there. And stuff. It's like, that feels like the same kind of...
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm telling you. My dad's cousin's friend worked for the police department, and he saw a government truck, and then it just becomes like a government truck came. And now this is a giant cemetery.
Massive.
From the corner of the pond to the corner of the cemetery, 50 steps maybe?
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah. Which is very significant. I didn't even realize how close it was when you said that.
I saw it coming in, and I knew it was close, but I didn't know it was this close. Amazing.
All right, this last segment is with Seriah and Octavian. We have a little discussion. First of all, I debunk a shadow figure I thought I saw last night while I was walking. Mm-hmm. I went back and figured out what I saw. It was not a shadow figure. It was a shadow, but it was not a figure independent of someone else's shadow.
Was it Octavian?
No, it was not. It was not. We also talk about the Necronomicon, and Seriah tells this really cool monkey story. I think he's told it before, but it's been years and years and years ago, about a creepy monkey coming out of the cornfield.
I'd like to welcome Seriah Azkath back to Strange Familiars. How you doing, Seriah?
I am doing okay, I guess. All things considered.
That seems to be the consensus. Okay is the we're aiming for at this point. And
it's not great, but it's also not terrible.
Mr. Octavian Graves is here as well. How you doing, Octavian?
Great. Thank you for having me.
I don't believe Octavian exists. The last 2 times I was down there, he was supposed to be around and he wasn't.
He's a busy man. He's very important.
I feel like he's just a figment of Tim's imagination.
I am.
He's Tim's tulpa.
He's actually a puppet. I'm doing his voice and mine.
That's some pretty good manipulation there.
Octavian, I've something sad to report.
What is that?
On the way back to my house, I debunked the shadow I saw. It was indeed just the shadow cast by that guy, I believe, at this point.
Really? Okay. Even with the weird angle that it...
You would not think it was possible from the other side of the street. So, at first I walked on the side of the street in which I saw the shadow. So, Seriah, just for reference, I thought I saw a shadow, walk up behind this apartment building on my walk tonight, and then I met Octavian, and we were trying to figure it out, and we couldn't debunk it. But on my way home alone, I walked first on the side of the street closest to the apartment building, where you would think you would cast a bigger shadow, and then it didn't. And I was like, just out of curiosity, let me walk on the other side of the street, on the side where you saw that dude walking. And I walked on that side of the street, and sure enough, it cast a huge shadow. And as you walk, it does appear to walk up behind that apartment building. So it's just an optical effect. But it is debunked. I did not, in fact, see a shadow being seen.
Damn, okay. Well, at least we figured it out.
Yeah. It seemed impossible. It seemed like there's no way that a shadow could be that big, coming from the other side of the road. But it's just the way the lights are.
And it's important to debunk that stuff, because every time you debunk something, you can feel a little more confident about the stuff you can't debunk.
Exactly. I mean, we did due diligence the first time, because we figured if we're on the side of the street closest to the apartment building where I saw it, your shadows would be bigger there. But it's just the way the lights are in that particular area. When I went across the street, it was pretty much exactly what I saw, because I kind of repeated the route that the guy would have had to take. And it's weird though. Your shadow appears to walk up behind the apartment building, but indeed it is just a shadow, a normal shadow, not a shadow being.
That doesn't take away from all the other weird stuff we experienced tonight.
It does not.
Wait, you experienced weird stuff tonight?
First of all, the town has a weird vibe tonight, and we walk at night most nights of the week. We walk around town. It's my exercise, and I'm happy to have Octavian accompany me. If he's not a puppet. Or a tulpa. Well, I guess if he's a tulpa, he could still accompany me.
Yeah, exactly.
But, no, I'm happy to have Octavian company. It's good company, and we get to talk, and I get my exercise in. And usually we're fine. There's nothing weird, but tonight we just agreed. It's man, something weird in the air tonight. And it just had an eerie atmosphere with some weird sounds. And then it was topped off by what may have been, but probably wasn't, a shooting star that Octavian saw. I did not see that. Octavian saw it.
Huh.
Just context, Seriah. For the past week, I have seen a lot of very strange things in the sky.
What do you think of this idea, Seriah, that people often say, once you see one, you're going to see other ones? In the Bigfoot world, it's attributed to, well, now you know what they look like, and you'll know what to look for, so you'll see them again. I don't know how they account for it in the nuts and bolts UFO world.
Well, not well. I think it's that our brain filters this stuff out, and once it stops filtering this stuff out, it has a paradigm to put it in, even if it doesn't know what that paradigm is. It's like, oh no, I saw that before. You can see it again.
Yeah.
Or it's just the time in your life where you need something weird to happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it seems like once people have a paranormal experience, it's, whether, they'll see Bigfoot, and then they'll see a UFO or a ghost or whatever. And yeah, I think it's, our brains will filter that stuff out. It filters out, like 95% of what's going on in your reality at any one point. And it focuses on the stuff that's survival based. So a weird light in the sky, don't know what that is. You don't need to know about it.
Right.
Or it's protecting you because your brain's going, oh, he's not going to like that. He doesn't see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then once you've seen it, it's kind of like, okay, all right, we can see other ones.
Yeah. Had you been familiar with it? So we were just up in Carbondale. They had this Carbondalian Fest, which is celebrating, I guess it's the 50th anniversary of this UFO, and let's use that in the broadest term, that descended into a pond there. Had you ever heard of that account?
Yes. Where's Carbondale again?
It's up near Scranton.
Okay. I would have gone to that if I knew it was happening.
I should have told you about it.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Sometimes I forget in the busyness of things.
I know the name. I don't know much about the account.
I had not heard of it. I thought I was like pretty up on Pennsylvania stuff. So I was kind of like, what? And so I became, familiar with it pretty quickly and listened to some accounts and some UFO people talk about it and stuff. Well, Octavian and I went out there. They were having a play during the festival to sort of reenact what happened. And they had some of the actual witnesses there and stuff, but I was talking and sort of tied to my table at the hotel, so I didn't get to go out to see that. But, on Sunday before we left, it's like, hey, let's go see this pond, let's see where the UFO landed.
Yeah.
Now, so the story goes, this light descended into the pond, and it stayed lit for hours. I forget the number of hours, something like 8 hours or something, underneath the pond. And they tried to go out and fish it out with a net, and at some point they thought they had it, and then of course it disappeared deeper into the murk, and then the light went out. So the story goes, like somebody later on saw a government truck with something on it, pulling out. I don't know what to make of that.
Right.
However, one thing I immediately noticed when we went out there, that nobody has mentioned, and it seems so blatant to me, about 40 to 50 paces from this pond is a massive cemetery. So we're talking about a light hovering in the sky that descends into this pond.
What year did this happen?
So 50 years ago today, or this month.
Okay.
1974.
Yeah.
Which was around the peak of UFO activity in the 70s.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, big time for UFOs in Pennsylvania, that time for sure.
Well, everywhere. I mean, 73, 74 is a huge spike.
Ah, okay. Well.
But I also would think plasma, because that would explain why they couldn't fish it out, because it wasn't a solid object like it may have looked.
Mm-hmm.
And how old is the graveyard?
It goes back a good long time. Like, there's some pretty old graves. And I would say, like, maybe early 20th century, late Victorian.
I wonder if there's a fault line through there.
I don't know. Well, they certainly do mining there, because there's coal slag all around that pond. That pond had something to do with coal mining, where they, like, washed the coal or something. I don't understand.
Oh, okay.
So there's certainly mining right around there. So there is, digging into the ground, not only with that, but also with graves.
Yep.
And, my immediate thought is, one of your favorite quotes, if it's a light in the house, it's a ghost. If it's a light in the sky, it's a UFO. If it's a light in the woods, it's Bigfoot. I mean, if it's a light in a cemetery, then you'd probably say it's a ghost too. And here we have this gigantic cemetery, and not one person, to my knowledge, has noted the proximity of this cemetery to this pond.
That's because that's where it ended, not where it started. If it had come out of the cemetery, or out of the pond near the cemetery, then it might have been, it was a ghost. But since it came from the sky down, that makes it a spaceship.
Right. Like, I couldn't believe it. And then we looked. I was like, oh, look, there's a graveyard right over there. Like, we passed it going in. And I didn't realize until we had walked around the pond how close we were to the actual graveyard. Like I said, it was about 40 or 50 paces from the corner of the graveyard to that pond.
Wow.
Yeah. I would think someone would have noted that in all the documentation on it. Again, maybe somebody did, but to my knowledge, I don't think anyone's made that connection.
74. I'm surprised nobody just jumped into the pond.
They had divers.
Oh.
I don't think you want to just jump into this pond.
Really?
Like I said, they were washing coal there. This isn't, nobody's fishing there,
Right, okay.
They did have divers that went in after the light went out, like the following day. And did not retrieve anything, to my knowledge,
Well, again, if it was something plasma-based, it would be able to stay lit underwater, and you wouldn't find anything when it stopped presenting itself. Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't be able to catch it in a net necessarily.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been a plasma intelligence. It could have just been a plasma outburst from a fault line or something. But, I feel like old cemeteries are put in sacred spots. So the fact that the graveyard's there, makes sense.
Yeah, it's super interesting.
I have been wearing my my Necronomicon necklace since Saturday, so that might account for some weird stuff.
He got the Simonomicon symbol.
I have that on my wall.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, well, I bought this giant Cthulhu blanket, which is on the wall of my studio here. And it came with 2 pillowcases with that symbol on it. And so they're on the wall, too.
Oh, wow.
I'm not using these as pillowcases. I want to display them.
I was telling Octavian that my older brother, when I was about 10 or 11 maybe, gave me a massive stack of heavy metal magazines, the comic magazine, which were quite inappropriate for someone that age, but that's another story. And in the back was an advertisement for the Necronomicon, right? But it had that symbol in it. It was like a leather-bound, like hard copy, hardbound, leather-bound kind of special thing. It had that symbol in silver on it and everything. And I was like, whoa, and it's got a whole blurb about it, just a full-page ad for it. And I never thought I'd run into it. And I was in the bookstore, and these magazines were a few years old by the time he gave them to me.
Yeah.
So it's an old advertisement I was looking at. So I was just in a bookstore one day, and I found the Simonomicon, a paperback of it. And I recognized it because, it said Necronomicon on it, and it had that symbol on it. And, I purchased it. I was like, what is this, So the fact that this was claiming to be real really kind of shook me up. It scared me, not enough to I didn't read the book, but I was like, whoa, this is like, again, I'm raised Catholic, so I'm like, should I even be reading this? You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. And it was really an eye-opening thing for me. And I've heard over time that the Simonomicon was a gateway for many people to get into the occult.
Yep. I was already studying Crowley's stuff by the time I picked that up. I don't even remember what made me pick it up. It just amused me, too, that it was on Avon Books.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how much more mainstream can you get for this dark novel, dark book of the occult, I have seen other copies in bookshops that were not the Simon Necronomicon, that were other people publishing their versions of the Necronomicon.
Oh, okay.
But obviously the Simon one, which was probably written by Lavenda, is the most well-known.
Mm-hmm.
But when I read it, I was not impressed at all by it, because I'm just like, this is just Sumerian stuff, because I had been studying, Sumer and all this other stuff, because I like ancient cultures and was looking for, lost civilization stuff as well. And Sumer at that point, when I was reading this, was the oldest civilization. So I had familiarity with Sumer. And then I'm going, this is just Sumer mixed with Lovecraft. Like, that's literally what this book is. It has actual Sumerian deities and stuff, and then it has Lovecraftian stuff, and they're just mixing it together. But yet, some of the weirdest stuff that happened to me happened when I was reading that damn book.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Like, give me an example.
So that was where I had the weird monkey in the cornfield. It's where we had the thing that was shaking the tree, which was like the next day.
Oh, yeah.
There was a series. There's like 3 or 4 things that happened in very short sequence of time, and it was the same time. I even noted in my journal that I was reading the Necronomicon, and I said, I'm sure this has nothing to do with it, but I'm going to note it anyway.
Interesting. Something about that book must have hit me in a certain way. Like maybe it was just a little darker than than the other stuff, and it just hit me in a different way.
Well, it had that Lovecraftian flavor mixed through it.
Yeah.
You know, the cosmic horror.
Mm-hmm.
And then turned into something potentially real. Which, I mean, hypothetically, you know, if you listen to Kenneth Grant, he'll tell you they did all kinds of stuff using Lovecraft's work, and it worked.
Right. Yeah.
So either he's lying, or it's not about necessarily what's empirically real, but what you put into it.
Exactly, yeah. The me that came up through Chaos Magic says, oh yeah, it would absolutely work.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have no problem with that concept.
I did try at one point using the sigils that are on the Eternal Darkness game in a magical ritual, and it did absolutely nothing. But maybe that's because my brain was like, this is from a game.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the thing. Sometimes you don't know why things work and why things don't, you know?
Yeah.
You have told this on Strange Familiars before, but it's been so long that... Tell us about the cornfield monkey again, because I remember that's a cool story.
Yeah, and I would have touched up my memory on this, because when I wrote about it in the book, which of course still isn't done, I realized that there was a whole lot to this, and it started with a really bad vibe in the back of my property. And I don't remember what, cause this was, again, around the time I was reading the Necronomicon. I did something, and then the whole back area got a really bad vibe. I think I might have done a ritual, and walked back there, and everything felt super oppressive. Like, it just felt like something didn't want you there. The air was heavy, and it's never been like that. So I went back there 2 or 3 nights in a row, and finally I said, I need to do another ritual. I need to, like, clear the air, do something. So I did another ritual, trying to clear it out. And I was like, I don't know if that worked. And then I started walking along the cornfield. And as I'm looking at it now, until I went back through my notes, I said, this was just matrixing. It was just my mind playing tricks on me. But now I'm not 100% sure. So I saw what looked like this grotesque monkey walking out between the corn stalks. And when it got to the edge of the cornfield, it just dissipated. And it's one of the few times in my life where, like, I was like, I'm getting out of here. I'm leaving now. Like, it freaked me the hell out because there was still that heavy oppressive air there.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, whether or not I actually saw something or if it was my brain creating this thing, but what I realized is, I think right before that, I had a dream about monkeys that was kind of sinister. Then that happened. And then, like, the next day, we're up at the Potter's Field that overlooks Seneca Lake. And the tree starts shaking, and there's nothing shaking the tree. Do you want me to go into detail about that?
Yeah, I mean, since it's associated. Go for it.
There were 4 of us, and we had built this trail that went along the cliff edge, and we built a bench on the, if you're facing the lake on the south side, and it's the east side of the lake, and we had made a path going north, and we were going to make another bench at some point. So our one friend is sitting at the bench we had made to the south. The 3 of us are standing in the clearing we had decided this is where we should try and put a bench. And this huge tree that's facing the field starts shaking. And to me, it was like a deer was running its horns against it. Because the tree, it was not a, you know, I don't know how thick around it was. Like, you couldn't have shaken it if you tried. Mm-hmm. But a deer certainly could have. And you could feel this thump, the thump, the thump on the ground. Like, just vibrating through the ground. And I'm like, oh, crap. You know, is that like a buck that's going to, you know, charge us when we try to get out of here?
Right, right.
And so my one friend's freaking out. He's like, what is that? What's doing that? I'm like, I don't know. And so I walked down the trail to where the two trails meet where we came in. And I could see the other side of that tree now because you couldn't see through it with all the foliage. And there's nothing there. And as soon as I could see there, the tree stopped shaking.
Okay, that was going to be my question. Interesting.
And so he's like, what's that? And I'm like, there's nothing there. And I walk back, and it starts doing it again. And so I'm like, all right. And so I walk back down the trail. And this time I walk all the way out to the other side. And it's a big open field. There's nothing there. And he's going, what was it? And I'm like, there's nothing here. And he's like seriously freaking out. And so I come back around. It starts doing it again. Now, the whole time we could see our other friend sitting on the bench quite a distance away from us. He gets up, starts walking toward us, and starts throwing rocks right where we're hearing this thing.
Huh.
And he's never done that before.
Yeah, that's an interesting detail.
And I'm like, do you see anything over there? And he's like, no, I'm throwing rocks. And we're like, yeah, we see you throwing rocks. You weren't throwing rocks. You were sitting. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
And that's where we realized our other friend wasn't seeing any of this. He's standing right next to us, was not seeing the tree shaking, wasn't hearing the thumping, nothing.
But what an interesting thing to do, to pick up and throw rocks.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, like, everyone now wanted to leave. So we left. They went home. I turned around and went back. Because I'm like, I want to see if I can get this to happen again. And there's nothing. And then I hear this monkey-like sound. And there's something going across the top of the trees right next to the Civil War part of the graveyard. And it's knocking big branches down. Like, you can see the branches sink, but there's nothing there. And it's making monkey sounds. And I'm like, the hell is it with monkeys? Like,
right,
what?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize all of those things happened, and all of them involved that monkey sort of thing going on, and it was right when I was reading the Necronomicon.
Super interesting.
It kept doing it. It lessened a little bit, but then, like, I think my mom was coming to pick me up because I wasn't just before I could drive. And I was like, all right, well, bye.
Yeah.
Like, it's obviously not going to do anything else, but I didn't get, when that stuff happened, I didn't get an oppressive feeling.
How big was this monkey at the cornfield?
Probably about 4 feet high.
And color?
It was dark, so everything was just like shades of dark. I mean, moonlit, but dark. And there was a breeze, so the corn stalks were moving. Yes. So whether my mind just projected a monkey for some reason?
Right, yeah.
Like did all of this, the monkey symbolism, just come from that initial dream I had?
Right, yeah. But it appeared, at that time to you, it appeared as a physical thing when it came out of the corn.
It definitely looked physical, yeah.
Yeah, and wow.
And if it was during the day, I wouldn't have the Matrix thing I thought. But because it was dark and the corn stalks were moving, it was kind of like, well, my brain might have just, especially over time, my brain said, no, you just imagine that. It was just Matrixing in the corn. But like when I wrote about it in my journals, I was absolutely convinced I watched this thing walk out of there. And I could not walk back there again for a while.
Interesting.
Like, I could get partway back there, and I'm like, nope, not going to do it, not walking over there.
The Necronomicon detail's super interesting, too.
Yeah.
Whenever I get around to writing my magical Bigfoot book, I'm going to call it Sasquatchonomicon.
The Squatchonomicon. So, Octavian, as someone who is kind of locked into, and I don't mean that in a bad way, it's the sort of path you walk. It's what hums for you. You like these old grimoires. You like this traditional aspect to the occult. What are your feelings on someone who would swear by, like, no, I use this Necronomicon. I know it's not, quote unquote real or as ancient as they say, but it works. What does that say to you as someone who is an active occultist?
My opinion of it diverts heavily from what most traditional occultists would say. And that is because I firmly believe that Lovecraft was in communion with some objective spiritual entity that was either directing his literature or influencing it in some way. And I think that spirit whatever you want to call it, whatever objective force you want to call it, has been living on in this specific format of this cosmic horror that people have been writing after his death. And so it does not surprise me at all that people get results from it, because I still think that even though it's not like based on a tradition, an actual manuscript or anything like that, I think that there is some very real objective spiritual forces that are involved in the Lovecraftian mythos for real that inspired the fiction of it.
So have you read Kenneth Grant's stuff?
I have tried writing Nightside Eclipse. Nightside of Eden, not the Emperor album. Nightside of Eden. And his writing just, I couldn't get into it. I still have it. I should probably try reading it again. I know everyone has told me to read Tunnels of Set, but I have not had a chance to really dive into Kenneth Grant's stuff.
The problem with Kenneth Grant is that sometimes he gets so caught up in the numerology of everything that he can go literally pages of making correlations based on numerology. And then you're just kind of like, okay, you lost me a while ago. What were we talking about?
I had all of his books, all the hardcovers, and at some point I got rid of them. I think I needed to make a car payment or something. And I sold them. So I remember there being at least in Nightside of Eden, I believe, there was a good bit of Austin Spare content, and he mentions them, I think, in every one of his books. But
there is, what is it called, Magical Revival from him, which basically talks about Crowley, Dion Fortune, and Austin Osman Spare, if I'm remembering right.
Yeah, maybe I'm thinking of that one too.
And then that was the first I'd heard of Spare, was from that book. And the same with Dion Fortune, I'd heard her name, but I didn't know anything about her until I read that. And then there was a bookstore in Ithaca that could get them occasionally. And so it was the only place I could get them. And they were usually $40 or something like that.
Oh, yeah, they were quite expensive.
Yeah, because they were imports. When that meant something. I mean, nowadays, records and books being imported is kind of okay, it's coming from China or it's coming from wherever, whatever.
Right. Right.
You're not paying an exorbitant amount for it generally.
Where else is it come from?
Fair enough. I mean, I remember buying a Doro CD that cost me almost $40. I think it cost me $40 because it was a German import.
Yeah, there was a guy just outside of Baltimore who would go to Japan and just bring back. I mean, he had a record shop and just bring back import CDs.
Yeah, and
he would take requests, and I remember giving him requests for what I was looking for. They were not cheap.
No, that's the thing. I mean, things that Octavian's too young to understand. What a pain in the ass it was to get a hold of some things back before the internet.
Oh, geez, the early Eric stuff. It was all import.
It was all UK.
Yeah, they did not have a U.S. distributor. So if you wanted Carcass or Godflesh, you had to know the right store to go to get it.
Yep. Same with all the Peaceville stuff, and you were going to pay a pretty penny for it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The Kenneth Grant books now, I think a lot of them are ebooks. I'm not sure, but he has quite a few that I've not read and don't have.
One that I've been trying to find for a long time is whatever one he wrote that it has Hecate in the title. I don't know if the actual book involves Hecate.
So that's the one I've been most recently reading, actually, because I don't know. I'm pretty sure I read it before, but that was 30 years ago. So kind of I should read this again now that I actually know who Hecate is. Hecate's Fountain, I think it's called.
Yes, I believe that's right.
Yeah. And that has some interesting stuff in it. I was enjoying that. I actually read some of it on the air on one of the shows the last time I actually picked the book up, which is probably over a year ago now.
For me, being a chaos guy, ex-chaos guy, looking in, it seems like everybody's doing chaos magic. It's just how much chaos they're doing. Everybody's picking and choosing, taking what they like, making their own things. Very few people are staying really, really pure to any one path.
True. I also, I didn't, Carol put out all those books on chaos magic, and I didn't like them because it seemed like he was structuring chaos magic.
Interesting.
That's how I felt about it.
I want to say I like Liber Null, and that comes together with Psychonaut, I bought Psychonaut because of the Fields of the Nephilim song. And that was like, well, Psychonaut's all right, but Liber Null's pretty interesting. But Psychonaut, I think, is where he starts structuring the rituals and stuff. And it's like, no, the whole point of this is that there's not supposed to be a set structure.
It's been so long since I read it, and those books were super influential on me. Just in thinking. And the idea that, I'm trying to remember the specifics of it, but when there was a story he tells, it must be in Psychonaut, about eating mushrooms and realizing afterwards that they were infested with gnats, and then having this vision of this giant glowing like gnat creature hovering above him, and realizing he was like seeing the god of the gnats or whatever. And then this idea that, like, hey, if your washing machine's broken, like, do an offering to the god of washing machines. It's very, very animistic in that sense.
Yeah.
That was very influential to me. And I don't know if this appeared in one of his books, or I used to do artwork for the Chaos Magic Journal, Thanateros, I believe it was called. And I think it might have been in there, but they were talking about, if you're going to form chaos magic groups, which is like almost, basically they were saying don't, but if you're going to, here's some ideas,
Yeah.
And the one that stuck with me, and that I still take with me today, and this has been a huge inspirational thing in my life ever since, and something I still stick with, is they said they would assign someone to be sort of the devil's advocate, or whatever you would call him, to question any decisions made, no matter what. No matter what. His job was to question, whether he agreed with him or not, his job was to question everything. Question everything. And I really took that to heart, and I found that in life. I've applied that. And if I question someone and they either get upset at it even being questioned, or if they don't give you the same answer twice, you can find a lot from that.
Yes.
And because if they're telling the truth, they shouldn't get upset about answering it, and it should be the same answer every time.
I especially apply that to, like, doctors, dentists, people like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can apply it to many things. I mean, you can apply it to your spiritual path, too. If you have someone who is claiming spiritual knowledge and putting themselves above you in some way, hit them with questions. And if they get upset, walk away. Find someone else. Because it should not be. It should not be.
Well, the thing is, anyone acting like they're better than other people because of their spiritual path is generally a red flag right off the bat.
Well, yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and people nowadays, it's so easy for people to say, well, I'm a shaman or something like that. And it's like, no, you're not.
I understand people want to use shamanic practices.
Right.
And I understand that. And that's fine. Again, follow the hum. If that hum's for you, go for it. But when someone calls themselves a shaman, I don't do this, but in my back of my head, I think, well, what sacrifices have you made for the tribe?
And I have a friend who had made the comment that she's studying to be a shaman. And I went, oh, so, give me some details. And she was actually studying with a Russian shaman. And I went, oh, that might be the closest to actually being a shaman that you're going to get in modern day.
Yeah, well, she's studying shamanic practices. If you're going to be a shaman, the shaman makes great sacrifices for the tribe.
Right.
Everything the shaman does is for the tribe. And that's where I feel a lot of these people are doing for themselves.
Sure.
And there's this idea, and you hear it a lot in the New Age, I cannot help anyone else until I help myself. You have to put that oxygen mask on yourself before you can help other people. Well, you're never going to be perfect.
Right.
That's a cop-out, quite honestly. I think, that's an excuse to be selfish. I think you can get spiritual gain through helping other people.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Because it gives you a wider understanding when you understand what other people are going through.
Absolutely.
That is definitely something I've found, because when I'm helping people with whatever it is that they need help with, it's always teaching me something at the same time.
Yeah. You get so much from that. Way more than whatever. I don't know.
Well,
I don't want to insult people, so I'm going to be careful. But yeah, no, you absolutely agree.
I have all the answers. Come listen to me. I have a lot of questions. I don't know if I have all the answers.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. I only know what has worked for me, and that's why my advice again to everyone is follow the hum. And what hums for me, it might not hum for you. So don't do that. Don't do what I do.
Right. Yeah, and I love that concept of following the hum. That's a really good way of putting it.
Seriah, where can people find you?
wheredidtheroadgo.com. And if you want to check out my music show, thelastexit.org.
Octavian Graves.
StrangeDominionspodcast.com, Facebook, and Instagram.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
My pleasure.
All right. What is this magazine, Allison, you've brought for our Curiosity of the Week?
Well, I have a Look magazine from the darkest days of the Depression. Not the current one, the one from the 30s, the famous one.
1938.
Yeah, so it's a Look magazine from 1938 with sort of she has a very like 40s pinup look. Like
very much.
She's very much sort of ahead of her time on it.
Yeah.
Really beautiful model in the front. But I thought what could be of interest, and the reason I purchased it originally, is because it has a whole section on women killers and why they kill. Now, I guess these people were famous at the time. I don't know that I've heard any of these stories.
You bought it to get ideas.
Jealous rages cause some women to kill.
I think we're hearing a plot here, folks. You said this magazine is kind of sought after, this particular issue.
Well, I'm not sure if it's just maybe Look magazines from this era anyway. They're really nicely done. And this is sadly nearly almost 100 years old when you think about it.
Yeah.
There is a really cool article on this model called Lud. She's Russian, but she's like really beautiful, and I'd never heard of her before. And then there's all these articles on how some women are wearing fresh flowers in their hair, as you do. A lot of articles from the time and ads from the time. Nothing ever really changes. Women need to be thinner, exercise more, try to please men more. So get your tips. If that all fails, there's an ad for Lucky Strikes on the back. So
this will be our Curiosity of the Week. I'll put an image of the cover of the magazine probably in the show notes, and you click on that. It'll take you to our Etsy shop where you can purchase that and other Curiosities of the Week, those that are left. I forgot to mention last week, I got stickers with the Eyes of Night design on them. These are nice, heavy vinyl stickers, like old school bumper stickers. Kind you can put on your car. They should last a good long while.
You can put them anywhere.
Yeah, put them anywhere. People used to put them on their leather jackets, remember back in the day?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. These are very nice, heavy stickers. We're giving them free with any order from Etsy, $10 or more.
Well, I think I'll order $100 worth of stuff just to get a sticker.
If you order over 100, go ahead and ask for an extra one. You can have an extra one.
Two stickers.
They turned out really great. It's got the
they do look nice.
The Eyes of Night design. Any order over $10, we'll put them in while supplies last, I should say. But I got quite a few of them. I think we're going to be good at least through the holidays for these. Little bonus for those who order from Etsy. Get a nice Strange Familiar sticker with your order. Our Etsy shop name is Lost Grave. But if you type in Strange Familiars, our stuff should come up. Also at Etsy, Strange Familiars t-shirts, stickers. We have 2 mugs left. No plans to make those again. They're the Black Dog mugs. We might, but it'll be a while if we do. We might do another design. Mm-hmm. So get those. Who knows when we'll make more or if. My books are there. If you get them from us on Etsy, I'll sign them before we pack them up and send them out. Artwork, prints, and originals. Allison has various ephemera, photos, and other things there at our Etsy shop. Again, the shop name is The Lost Grave. There's links in the show notes as well to our Etsy shop. You can find it there.
That's it, Tim.
Yeah, so episode 500 is coming. Got to get to work. All right, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back soon with more Strange Familiars. Strange Familiars is a production of Dark Holler Arts. Intro and background music is by Stone Breath. If you want to hear more or purchase music, you can go to stonebreath.bandcamp.com. We're on Instagram at Strange Familiars. One word, no underscore. Please give us a follow there. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/Strange Familiars. The Strange Familiars Gathering Group is also there. For merch, go to strangefamiliars.com/merch. And for everything else, all the time, strangefamiliars.com.
And they free the